what they want to know. It's about what they need to know. I would summon the Divine Mother Mary, right? And I could see things. I could see things like people had passed over. I think they thought I was crazy. Probably, if they were alive, they still probably think I was crazy.
Why didn't you just tell us how it all started for you?
So as a child, I was very psychic. I was more clairvoyant than psychic. I could see spirit, and that would be like from the age of 5. Where
When you say see spirit, you mean you actually could see?
I could see things. I could see things like people had passed over.
Really?
And I was
Is
quite
that scary then?
Yeah. As a child, you're scared, you know.
But how would your parents respond to that? If you said, "Oh, I've seen this."
I think they thought I was crazy. Probably, if they were alive, they still probably think I was crazy, right?
Because they didn't have that. It wasn't something that they
No.
It was
So it was,
yourself.
it's not in the family. Although my great grandfather Mateus de Mello, he was a medicine man in Goa, and he might have had those skills. I don't know, but I didn't know him because he'd already passed away. But as a child, I could see spirit. And an interesting story was one time I was taking care of a neighbour. I was born in Kenya, and I was looking after, funny enough, a Punjabi family. Our neighbours were, the grandmother asked me if I could look after the little boy while she went and made him his milk. And so I said, yeah, sure, you know. So
what age was you then?
I was about 7 or 8, and I sat there with the boy who had a really high temperature, and just sat there like watching him really. And then suddenly this woman walks in with a white sari. She was wearing a white sari, and I'm going like, this isn't Grandma. Like, Grandma's in the kitchen, like, who's this woman? But she had a pair of scissors in her hand. Now, she must have been Hindu because the boy was Punjabi, and obviously the young lad had like a little thing on his, and she was about to go and cut his hair off, right? Because it's religious, their hair. And I just literally, as she got nearer to the boy and she took the scissors to the hair, I just like literally screamed, and the scissors dropped on the floor and she disappeared.
Well, disappeared as in disappeared, not just ran out.
Disappeared.
Wow.
And then the grandmother came running in and asked me what the hell went on, and she saw the scissors on the floor and she knew I was sitting on the other end. And then I explained to her what I actually saw.
Was that the start of it for you?
Yeah, and it scared me. It scared me.
Yeah,
It scared me. So then she said, oh, yeah, this was before we moved into this house. It was a Hindu family, and this was the grandmother's room. And, you know, in those days, there was like this religious thing, you know, like where you've got the kind of Hindu, Punjabi, you know, like the don't kind of mix kind of thing, you know, because of religions and stuff like that. So that was kind of quite interesting,
Because
and
obviously with what you're doing, it's not really religious based, is it?
No. Mine is very spiritual in the sense that, you know, when I do my readings, even now, it's about where the person is on their timeline, you know, how do I move them forward? It's not about what they want to know, it's about what they need to know, you know.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And it's about what are the first 3 cards will show me what's going on around them.
Yeah.
And then I channel, so my guides are the Divine Mothers I work with.
Where did that come to? So you're 7 years old, you've just discovered that you've got this sort of gift.
Yeah.
When did you actually think of it as a gift?
In my late 20s.
So what was going on up until your late 20s before you...
Oh, I was having like deja vu experiences where things were happening, like I would say random things to people and it would happen, you know. The phone would ring in the house, and it was, you know, that thing where siblings don't want to pick up the phone, and, you know, my sister would be like, no, it's for you. And I'd go, no, it's blah, blah, blah for you. And they call in to talk to you about blah, blah, blah.
Wow,
and she'd be like, freak.
Yeah. Well, it is quite freaky.
Yeah,
isn't it?
is quite freaky. But I didn't know. Yeah, and then I think the scariest bit was when my stepfather died, and I saw him in a coffin for a whole week.
Really?
And I couldn't get my head around it. And then my mum and him had split up at that point. And then I just said it to my mum. I said, Mum, you know, he's passed away. And she goes, "Don't be ridiculous." And then I'm at work, and then I get this phone call to say that he's passed away, and I'm just like literally falling off my chair and fainted because, again,
Is it still at this stage you're not really totally aware of what's going on?
this was, I was, 21 at the time, so still not connected to it, And then I would go for readings, mysteries around the corner. I was a regular client there.
Yeah.
I'd go for readings, and I'd see different readers there, and made friends with a couple, and they said, like, Debs, we can't do your reading for you because you should be able to do it for yourself,
Why did you go to readings then? Because you were feeling it yourself, or you just
I
was
was curious, really curious, because I was raised in a Catholic family, and of course, religion tells you you can't do this kind of stuff. So I would read books, and I would hide the books from my mum, because I didn't want her to know.
Yeah.
But my mum was into astrology, fortune telling and stuff like that. She used to go and spend like 50p to see this lady in Shepherd's Bush in the market. And the lady would literally take the 50p and then read her palm. And everything she would say to my mum was accurate. And then I think my big experience was going to the readers and Selfridges years ago, like in the 80s, where they had a floor with readers on, and there was
where?
Upstairs near the restaurant area.
Right.
And then I just had a random reading with this woman that told me stuff, and I was blown away, literally blown away.
Because your mum being a Catholic, that wouldn't have been something really the Catholic Church would have been. I'm Catholic, so I'm a bit aware of that. So they wouldn't have encouraged that.
No.
Although they do believe in like a life after death, obviously.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, well, I do, but
you've had experience of it, so
you
have to. But that's interesting. So you've basically now been taking an interest in it. You're having all these things going on.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the turning point where you start thinking, well, I need to give people advice on this. I need to use this skill that I've got, and bring it out to. Because you're there to help people, really.
Yeah, no. So it all began. My journey began in. Let's have a look. So in 1987, I was in a car accident that could have killed me. And I went through that process where you see that light, and suddenly Spirit pulled me away and said, "No, your work is not done yet." And I didn't know what they meant by that,
Yeah.
And I was 27 at that time. Then I was working with a lot of childhood traumas, but I didn't know that I had, from 30 onwards.
Were you the only one in the crash?
Yeah.
You
I was
on your
badly.
own in the car?
No. The driver, he was okay, but I was the one it was Halloween night, funny enough. Halloween night, and I saw this car, and I thought, that car's going to stop, isn't it? And it didn't. And it went, and it swerved our car into the front of someone's living room. So I was trapped.
A big accident.
Yeah, it was a big accident. Yeah. So that was my awakening. I call it my first awakening. Yeah. And then I knew that there was some stuff that I needed to deal with, and I wasn't really dealing with stuff, Bernard. I've had a very traumatic childhood, very, very traumatic, and.
Well, what was your trip? Because you said you was in Kenya.
Yeah, I was born in
Kenya.
Kenya.
So what was the trip, obviously, from Kenya
to England? I was 10 when I came to England, kicking and screaming because I didn't want to come. And that was kind of interesting because then my mum remarried, and, I had a horrendous childhood in Kenya with my dad, and, divorce was really messy. Yeah. And then obviously my mum had this relationship with my stepfather who brought us to England, and it was a nightmare with him. It was really narcissistic to the core. Like literally, I didn't have a childhood. Once Mum married him, he literally kept us caged. We weren't allowed to have friends over or anything like that.
It's just you and your sister.
Yeah. We weren't allowed to go out. We weren't allowed to have fun. This went on until Mum and him tragically split up. Yeah. And I was 19 or 20 at the time.
So quite a traumatic time for you.
Yeah. So all my gifts were hidden. Yeah.
So they were hidden. I was going to say there was nothing.
They were hidden.
That point where you're up to 19, wasn't a lot happening. No, or there was, but you weren't aware. You were.
Well, every time there was that element of fear or trouble about to happen in front of me in the household, it was like I would summon the Divine Mother Mary, right? And somehow a total stranger would like be there to rescue me, and I didn't know I was summoning her, and only recently, she said, we've always been...
Unconsciously you were doing these things.
Yeah. And, recently she said, we've always been there for you.
Yeah.
You just chose this timeline. You chose this timeline to experience it, but we've always been there for you. Yeah. Yeah.
So at 19, things have sort of changed a little bit. You're now... You're getting a bit more independent now. You've got away from that.
But it didn't, because all that trauma, what it did was set up anxiety for me.
Yeah,
so it got to the point where I couldn't even leave the house.
Really? That bad?
Yeah, I was like afraid to go outside because, of the experiences that I'd had as a child. I'd already gone through.
How did that affect all your schooling and everything?
It was terrifying. I always thought someone was following me and stuff like that. I just like my mum had to drop me off to things and pick me up and stuff like that. And it was really, really scary. I think my breakthrough point of realizing that I had this magic inside of me was when I hit maybe mid-30s.
Really?
Yeah, after my daughter was born. Yeah.
So you had a long period of time going through just. Well, I would say a normal life now. I take it you got married, and you've had your child, and then something's happened again to bring it back to you. To bring it back, yeah. So then she was 7 at the time, and went through a divorce. Luckily it's all very amicable, and he's a great father and everything. But suddenly there was another awakening taking place inside of me, where I knew that there was so much more I needed to do, but I needed to work through my childhood trauma, Yeah. And then that happened after my mum died, that I was able to Did you work through that on your own? Or you worked through it on your own? Yeah. You didn't take any... And then I went to New Zealand in 2017, and I worked with the elders there, the Maori elders there. And Is this where it's all starting to start for you now? Yeah. You've moved to New Zealand. For 6 months I was there and did deep healing work with the elders there, and it was incredible the amount of trauma they released in me, that I couldn't believe how much I was starting to remember about my childhood, and the pain that I'd carried, right up to that point. And at that point I was 58. Really? Yeah. It's been a journey, hasn't it? It's been a freaking journey. I swear. Yeah, but no, it's really good because, that's what people want to hear, really. That it's a journey. And the thing is, it's interesting because then I stepped into doing readings, because that's when one of the readers from Mysteries, Lee, was like, Debs, I'm sick and tired of doing readings for you. I'm actually going to pass you on to someone who's going to put you on a platform. And that's what you did, And was that the start now when you're starting to actually do it? Do readings, so that was like from 2016 onwards, yeah. You're now actually doing it. Readings live, face to face. And now you're face to face with people. How did you find that? It was interesting because I didn't know if I could actually do it, and then it was just flowing naturally, and people would say, like, how did you know that? Or where, And at first I was like, I don't know. And then in 2018, when I was in Fatima, it became very clear about how they wanted me to do my readings. It was about helping people on their journey. Who's this when you say they? The Divine Mothers, Mother Mary and Kuan Yin, they came in. I was in Fatima for New Year's Eve, and I thought I was going mad because I could hear these voices, and I turned around and there was nobody there. And then suddenly... And by now you're old enough, mature enough to deal with it. Yeah. Unlike when you were a child. And they gave me a process. They told me exactly how they wanted me to do my readings. And I was like, I don't know how this works, because I've been so set in the way I was doing my readings. And then I thought I was going crazy. So as this conversation with them finished, I looked around and there was nobody there. And I thought, I haven't had a drink. I need to drink. And then I literally ran down the square, went and lit all these candles and, near the chapel, and went to my hotel and thought, right, okay, I'm going to bed now, thinking I was going to sleep. And they came in my dream. Wow. And they said, do you understand what we want from you? And I was like, So I was up the whole night, and then I phoned my daughter and I just said to her,
can you help me with this? And then she goes, Mum, you've got this, you know. She goes, what do you want me to do? And I said, well, how about you get some friends and I start practicing on them the way they want me to do my readings. And then that's how it all kind of opened up.
From there.
Yeah.
And that was, how long ago was that?
That was in 2018. And I was in Portugal.
Yeah.
So lockdown, I was in Portugal doing readings for people. And they were like, wow, you know, that's incredible. And then I arrived back in London in 2021, and it was my birthday, and I said to Lauren, I said, can we just walk into Mysteries? And she goes, what, to buy crystals? And I said, no, I just want to ask them something. And I just said, do you need any readers? And they said, actually, we do.
Right.
So then I did a test reading, and I ended up working there until they closed down in, 2023?
Yeah. So now you've had quite a long time in Mysteries.
Yeah.
So you're now dealing with lots and lots of people. What did you enjoy about that?
I loved it when people came back, you know, the second time and said, you know what you said to me? Because once I've done the reading, I don't remember a thing. It's like it's erased.
Really?
I don't remember anything, you know.
So basically, you do a reading, you get all this information. After that, I suppose it's got to, hasn't it? You couldn't hold all that stuff.
Yeah, I'd be like a wreck otherwise.
Yeah, you'd be holding all this. You'd be like a mad person.
Yeah.
So that's quite.
So
a lot of people wouldn't know that. They think that you just. But of course, you can't.
Yeah,
hold
or that
this
you
stuff.
make the shit up, right?
Well, of course,
making it up.
I was going to ask you about that, because there must be a period where people who don't believe will be challenging you on these.
Oh yeah, and then I'm really honest with them. I say, I'm really sorry, but I'm not your reader. I can't actually. You know, the 3 cards gives me an idea. And then sometimes they come in and they just say, get them out. Forget it, you know. Yeah. I had a lady come in one time at Mysteries, and she was like, she didn't want to listen to what I had to say. She got so aggressive, she stormed up and she demanded a refund. And I said, just give her money back, you know, no harm done. And then 3 months later, she came back. And she asked if she could see me. And they said, well, you're actually on her banned list. And they said, oh, yeah, I know. I was really rude to her. But whatever she said to me in that 5 minutes actually happened, you know.
Well, maybe that's because something's in her life. She's frustrated. And she was, at that time, she's taking frustration out on you because she wants some sort of answer. Do you feel like that? Or do you just see the aggression? Do you see that side?
I didn't see her aggression coming through until 5 minutes, because we have a cut-off point. You know, Mysteries was 5 minutes. Yeah. And then if you think you're not going to do that reading, you kind of... So I wasn't sure she was a time waster because she had a 5 minutes.
Yeah, okay.
And then was like, you know, people who go out, buy a dress and want to return it.
Okay, so that's interesting. So you basically... I come into you and I ask for a reading. Mm-hmm. You're now going to give me 5 minutes to see if you can connect with me, and if you can't, it's just a refund and out they go. Yeah. So there's a lot of honesty in it as well. You know, you're being honest. You're basically saying, if I can't get anything from you, here's your money back. You can move on. So and
I'm not going to lie. You know, I can't make it up. If I haven't got anything to give you, I can't. You know, but I know how many lives. You know, since 2018. You know. The reviews I get on Google and stuff like that, you know, you've impacted me in a big way, and you know, and I know, you know, my work evolves every time. You know, now I don't know if you know remote viewing, but when I do readings, it's very much about looking really at the cards and then being given these deep, profound messages. You know,
so you're all the time you're developing.
My skills,
as well, your skill sets of what you can do and everything. Do you mix with other, like yourself, mediums like yourself? And if you do, how is it with each other?
There are a few that I hang out with. You know, like I do the Mind, Body and Spirit, so I'm doing that at Olympia for 4 days, and there's some beautiful readers there, you know, that I connect with. And then there are also those that have their egos, and like you don't do it the way we do it, and you know, so you get that in every business, don't you?
Have you come across any like charlatans, people who are doing it and they're not really?
How do you work them out? Well, I can read energy, so I feel the energy straight away, and I just shake my head and go like, you know, I've had my fingers burnt. I remember like in my 20s, I went to this woman in Victoria Market, Victoria Station.
Yeah.
And she saw I was wearing this bangle that I'd wear of my grandmother's, my hand. And she said, "Oh, I'm really sorry, I can't do a reading for you because you'd have to do this ritual and you need to leave something with me." So I knew she was eyeing the bangle, right? And I was like, "No, I can't do that." And she said, "Okay." She said, "I'm going to give you these tomatoes." She said, "Put it in a handkerchief when you go home and you must sleep on it because we need to take off this demonic presence that you have inside of you." So I did exactly what she told me, put the handkerchief, slept on it, thinking like, "Oh my God, these tomatoes are going to be like smashed up." Yeah. Woke up. Went straight to the market the next morning. I didn't wear my bangle, right? And I went to the market and she opened the handkerchief. She cut the tomatoes and there were all these worms. Like she might have. I think now I know that she'd already injected it with those worms, right? Yeah. And she goes like, "That's amazing." She said, "Now I can do your reading, but you're going to have to pay me." So I said, "Oh, how much is it?" And she said, "You have to leave a piece of jewellery." Now, I used to wear my engagement ring. Yeah. I'd already broken up with the guy, but it was a really lovely sapphire and diamond ring. And I'd wear it on this hand, on my right hand. So I literally took the ring and I gave it to her because I didn't need the ring. Yeah. I went back to work. And the girls noticed my ring was missing because it was so noticeable, and they said to me, like, "Where's the ring, Debs?" And I just burst into tears and told them, well, they marched me to the market. The woman had gone. We then phoned up Victoria Police Station and she never ever came back there again.
How bizarre.
The ring was like, in those days, like 80s, about £1,000.
Oh, it was a lot of money.
Yeah, it was a lot of money, yeah.
You got caught.
I got caught. A charlatan.
Well, at least you're being honest. At least you're being honest. You don't know
that
everything.
Was a real charlatan. And I've seen people do readings and, and I just, like, have to shake my head, Bernard. Like,
how do you find it then, with obviously, with this, what you've got? What about with family? How do you...
family think I'm weird.
But how do you see it with them if you see anything, or can't you do a reading on them?
Well, now, so how the Divine Mothers work with me is I don't actually do readings when I'm in the presence of anyone unless I call on them to open me up, right? Yeah. So I can go out socially and I won't pick up anything, but energetically I can pick up,
Would you do readings for your family?
I do readings for my daughter, but family, I've like excommunicated all of them. Because being a Catholic, it don't
really go, does it?
But so my family is my soul family. My soul family. They're the people.
So you're not practicing Catholic anymore?
No.
You basically know you're happy with what you're doing at the moment. So you believe in the afterlife?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
What do you think the afterlife is for people who are just listening?
Well, I do believe that there's a beautiful book by Robert Schwartz. It's about your soul, about how you make a contract to come onto planet Earth to learn lessons that you've not experienced, Yeah. I feel mine was about experiencing what it's like to not have unconditional love, because when I've done... My last past life was as a Buddhist child monk in 1955, and I've come into this timeline to experience what it's like not to be loved, by parents, by
really
siblings.
Yeah.
So
you feel you come back for another sort of lesson, really?
A really hard lesson.
So this is your hard lesson?
This is a very hard lesson. And only in the last few weeks have I kind of been exploring my mother rage, my mother wound, because it's massive, and I did a ceremony on Easter weekend and it brought up so much stuff for me about my mother wound that I'm looking at it now and I'm so angry with her. I was angry with her when I was younger, but now I'm even more angry because the more things are coming through because of my abilities, and I have to clear it because obviously you attract your clients. The clients that I attract have similar journeys to myself. So if I can clear stuff like anxiety, mother wounds and stuff like that.
What about, so you say about your mum, what was her journey then? What do you think she come back to learn? What was, because we've all, obviously, like you're saying, we've all got a journey, so what was she in her past life and why did she come back? Because obviously,
to be a really hard nut mother, I don't know.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because obviously we've all got, like you say, we've all got a journey. We've all come back to learn something. What's all these people coming back to learn as well? It's really interesting.
Yeah, and you know, that fact that I was birthed into a family that was so not loving and caring, right? Including like my relationship with my sibling. My sister is like 0 right now.
Is it?
You know,
is she younger
0.
or older?
She's older, yeah. But she was a bully, you know. She was a bully in my life.
Is that though more because of your upbringing and your mum?
Yeah, she was the golden girl, the golden child, you know, like... Yeah. I could do everything wrong, but my sister did everything right. Even if she did something wrong, she did it right, you know. Yeah. And there's so many of us like that are birthed into these families, and then we take it personally, you know. And
what about your original dad, your father?
Oh,
do you know much about his?
Yeah. He disowned me as a baby. He disowned me as a baby. Yeah, he didn't want.
So you haven't got any contact there at all?
He passed away a year before my mum. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Did he ever remarry or have other siblings?
Yeah, and he turned out to be exactly the same person. Yeah. He didn't have. I don't have any siblings.
Did he stay in Kenya?
No, he's British. Yeah, British. Yeah, British. Yeah.
So where do you feel your journey's taking you now then, and what do you feel you're bringing, and why are you carrying on your journey? To help others. To learn more about yourself.
To literally like clear those traumatic experiences that I've had as a child, to become whole again, to be able to help others who are going through that process, you know, like whether it's hand to hand or reading or healing, you know. And then, you know, I see my life being in Portugal, funny enough, you know. Yeah, because it so resonates with me. You know, my ancestors were Portuguese, and, you know, I spent 5 years during lockdown in Portugal. I went there out on my own, no family, nothing. And I did a lot of healing because when I was in New Zealand, a lot of childhood trauma came and I needed to find a safe space, you know. So when I left New Zealand, I did a bit more travelling. And then I ended up in Portugal, in Faro. And my beautiful landlady, you know, she like literally, I call her my sister now because she helped me back on my feet because she saw that how broken I was and literally helped me, fix me, you know, to get me back up,
Well, I've known you a reasonable amount of time and I wouldn't have thought you needed too much fixing. You seem very confident and you seem like you've got yourself really where you want to be now. I'm not saying where you were in the pub, but you definitely look like you're on a journey and you look like you're going to be in a position to help people now because you're feeling so confident in yourself. Yeah.
Well, do you remember last time when we met, we spoke about anxiety, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, I suffered with that, you know, from childhood. Well, from the age of 10 when I arrived in England to 21, 22, you know.
Yeah, it's a difficult time.
The person you're seeing is, if it wasn't for my healing in New Zealand, I wouldn't be here today being able to talk like this. I would have been a bag of nerves.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. Yeah. But the good thing is that you're doing it with other people, you're meeting people, you're talking to people and you're basically giving them readings, so you're helping people and you're learning yourself at the same time.
And they're healing me as well.
Yeah, that's it. Know? It's a self-heal. It's a process,
It's a process, yeah.
But I was interested in when you said about you've done your past life. Where did you do that?
I did it when I was doing my shamanic training up in Scotland. So I'm a shamanic practitioner, but I am a shaman through my great-grandfather, you know, because his lineage is like, four generations, you know.
What would a shaman do? What's the sort of
the shamans? They kind of balance darkness and light, you know. And I've always been able to do that, you know. So it's a healing journey that I've actually entered, you know, myself, you know, where I can do soul retrievals. It's like when people take a piece of you, you know, like when people, like constantly, you can't help but be thinking about someone. It's because you've actually taken a part of them.
Okay, yeah.
So that part needs to go back to that person. So I do work like that, you know, for people that need that kind of work, yeah.
How do you put your message out to people that you're there for them and if they can come to you? I know you've got sort of like a bit of a website?
Yeah,
like that?
well,
But generally, how do you...
Instagram, can connect with me on Instagram, Deborah FreeSpirit, Facebook, Deborah FreeSpirit. So that name was gifted to me after my session in New Zealand. It was because I always...
It's a lovely name, yeah.
Yeah, the free spirit. It was like, you are the free spirit now, run with it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you are.
Yeah. And I am now, but the person you would have seen 10 years ago wasn't that person. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
When you had your child, was that a massive experience for you?
As a mother, yeah.
Being that you were going through those times and then you had your own child.
Yeah. I knew that when I was going to be a mother, I was going to be the best mother this child ever had, you know. Loved, you know, and she is.
Yeah, and you've still got a great relationship with your daughter, which is really important.
She's absolutely, you know, fantastic, you know.
How does she feel about your journey now? Where are you going forward?
She just goes like, you can do this, Mum, you can do this.
So she's encouraging for you.
She's really encouraging. She's like my greatest fan, I'd say.
Yeah.
You know, she like when she sees me going through hurdles like this week. I actually went through a little hurdle because I've been married twice, right? Engaged 3 times, married twice. But my ex-husband, my second husband, phoned me up on the 4th of April to tell me that my ex-husband... He said, your ex-husband has died. And I said, well, it can't be unless I'm speaking to him in spirit. And he goes, no, I meant your first husband. So that really took me back because I was in my early 20s when I got married. That was 40 years ago.
Yeah, there's still some feeling there, isn't there?
We had 5 years together, nearly, you know, and so that brought up a lot of... His funeral was on Wednesday and I watched it online because I needed to watch it, you know. And I had a deja vu experience. So the day before, I'm waiting for a friend at Tottenham Court Road Station. And he's just called me to say he's running late. And I said, that's fine, I'll wait for you. I'm just at the top of the stairs. And suddenly this man walks by, Bernard. He turns around and I'm going, shit, you're dead.
No.
Your funeral is tomorrow. And he smiles at me and I'm like, what just happened, you know? Yeah. So... I'm watching the funeral, and then when the casket comes in and they put it in the middle of the, you know, the aisle kind of thing, they go and they put this photo on top of it, and I'm going, damn, that's the man I just thought the day before.
Because you hadn't seen him for a while. You didn't know what he really looked like. Is that true? Yeah.
The same shirt.
Really? Oh, blimey, that's interesting.
Well, then mother wound open up, right? Because mother interfered in that relationship so much. She really interfered in it.
Do you think she caused the breakup of the of it?
Yeah.
Well, that's something you've got to...
Yeah.
It's quite challenging to sort of get over all that, isn't it?
And then seeing his ex-wife and my daughter going like, oh, Mum, Deborah number 2. Short hair, everything. A strong lady because she did the eulogy, so she had that strength as well. She got up and she did the eulogy, and it was quite interesting. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's funny how you've got all these things sort of coming back into your life.
Yeah,
all right, that was a small, but it's still quite interesting that you potentially saw your ex-husband.
Yeah, the first one, yeah.
Well,
the one that got away.
No, but it's interesting that he made himself
present. It was like as if he was acknowledging me, you know, and we've not had a connection in 40 years, you know. If I wouldn't even know what he'd look like if I bumped into him in the street, but that moment was like, whoa, you know, and it was the smile that made me realise that was him.
Funny I said Deborah number 2.
No, she's Deborah number 2.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. She's Deborah number 2. Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time with all this going?
I hope I've helped loads of people, Bernard. My passion really is about working with children, you know, because of my childhood experiences. Yeah, so I'm a trained relaxed kids coach, and the idea is when I do end up in Portugal, it's to really bring back meditation for the children, workshops for the children, because, you know, trauma begins in childhood, right?
Yeah, of course.
And if you can heal the child, you can make them a whole adult. It's not, you know, so I know when I'm doing my readings, it's great, you know, but my passion is children, absolutely children.
So maybe that's where you're going to be in the next 5 years, in Portugal, basically giving back to children, see if you can help them and move them on, and that's going to give you some sort
being
of
that
comfort.
old granny, you know.
It's going to give you some comfort, that's the thing. No, it's brilliant that you come in. I've really been looking forward to this one. Maybe I can get back and do a little reading with us at some point. I think people would like to see that. You know, I mean, I might not necessarily with me. I've got a lot of trauma myself, but maybe we'll get Lewis over here. He'd like something like that. But it'd be really, really good to get you in again.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, really appreciate you coming in. And anyone who's, you know, looking for your information, they'll be able to get it on our podcast on our website.
Absolutely.
So they'll be getting in touch with you. And are you going out to people? They come to see you?
Well, I do readings in South Woodford, so I've got a room that I use there, and also in Chancery Lane. Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah, and lucky for me, you know, we have a mutual friend. He's been my ambassador. No names mentioned, but he gives me space to be able to do my readings as well.
Yeah, no, he's really, really helpful.
So he's
he's been a good help, hasn't he?
Yeah.
For all of us, really.
For all of us,
He is good. So, no, that's excellent.
And that's how our paths have crossed.
Yeah, of course. No, it has. And it's been good. Even like the COVID time was really interesting, because I spent a lot of time with him then. So it's been good.
Yeah.
But, no, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
I want you to come in again, and we will do the readings. I know people love this, and I think they'll really enjoy it. And I think they'll really enjoy the fact that, you know, that you can see and you've seen people and the things you've gone through. So
and you know, what I like to get across is I'm authentic. You know, I don't want to give anyone false hopes or false flags. You know,
that's why it was interesting. You said about you give them the 5 minutes, you see if you can come through with them for something that might comfort them or give them, you know, and then they go there, because I'm sure they come to you for lots and lots of different reasons. Yeah. And that's the thing. You've got to find really what they're coming for, and not just give them something that you think they want. You've got to give them the genuine deal. Yeah.
I don't, you know, sometimes I get the question like, my boyfriend has just left me. Will he be back? I'm going like, do you really want him back? And they go, well, he was a bit of a bully. And I'm going, well, you don't want him back. So let go of him, because by you holding on to him means that whoever's meant to be in your timeline hasn't got room to come in, because you're constantly thinking about your ex-boyfriend, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
Crazy.
Yeah, no, that's lovely. Well,
thank you.
Thanks for that. Really, really liked it, and I'm sure we're going to do it again, and everyone's going to be watching this podcast.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming in. Thanks.
Thank you.